I guess I'll just kick things off. First is a friendly reminder that we have the State of the Reactor chat, which is a chat that's underneath the Tokemak umbrella in here. I'll ping here. So I'm not entirely sure if we'll be getting to too many questions today. We will be answering some questions from the public pilots dashboard, which I'll link again that Dan set up. Use this dashboard for throughout the week if you have some questions, and then or the 2 weeks, I guess, between these state of the reactors, and then the team can try to address some of those questions. So we had a few questions over the past 2 weeks, which we'll address on the call. There will be no POAP. And the other thing I wanted to mention before we kick it off is just a little bit of a comms update that Dan and I have been working on. So we have these state of the reactors, which we're doing now. And then we're going to start doing what's known as a weekly roundup, which we will probably start next Friday, which is essentially just a brief summary of what the team's been working on over the course of a week. And then we're also going to be changing up the leakies, which I think most people know by now, but we're going to try to do leakies on Sunday where, some members of the team can come and hang out and just chat in the leaky reactor. And they won't necessarily be the crazy leaks that we used to do, but try to get some more activity from the team inside of the leaky. That probably won't start this Sunday because I think a lot of team members are traveling. But anyways, that's kind of some of the Discord comms updates. Those weekly roundups, we'll post them in the dev feed channel. So anyways, that's kind of the beginning of the call, and I think I'm going to kick it to Carson for some updates.
Cool. Thanks, End. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. So I think until we get sort of the end of week wrap up ones going, maybe we'll start off with a quick update and sort of progress over the last, really over the last week, but week or two here. So as many of you have probably seen, there is a new landing page or homepage. So a UI update. If you haven't seen that yet, go over to tokemak.xyz. I think it turned out really nice, and we've been getting very positive feedback on that. Has some more information for sort of newcomers to Tokemak on what exactly Tokemak is, what is liquidity bandwidth, all that good stuff. So good work on the team getting that out the door. On the deployment side versus the previous week, there are fairly minimal changes on the volatile asset side, meaning on the token project tokens. So that's pretty stable or pretty consistent with the week before. A little more updates over on the stable deployment side. So this might be a good time to throw it over to Sharp and Bruno here, who can dig in a little further.
Yeah, so as many might have noticed, we've been migrating some Frax over from the Frax CRV, so the Frax 3-curve pool over to the Frax base pool. So we migrated on Wednesday, we migrated 5 million Frax to the Frax 3 SUV base pool. We are basically doing this alongside with Frax itself that is migrating over to that pool, right? Our aim for that is to basically keep our maximum exposure of 5% in these pools. So we are basically kind of monitoring what Frax is doing and then moving over alongside with them. It's relatively modest moves, and it also helps us to reduce the USDT exposure on the 3-curve pool, which is a nice plus. And then so currently given I don't know, I haven't yet checked it today, but the APR in the base pool, had doubled. So, and since the elasticity of the stablecoin pools is really high, we expect the TVL there to double as well. So we can then, according to that, start moving more funds over. Unless Sharp has to add something yet.
I should also say that this is a dual side move. So at the same time that we are migrating that Frax, we also migrate USDC. So the ratio of the pool balance always stays constant. And again, this is all being done at the same time as the migration from the Frax 3 CRV pool to the Frax base pool unfolds.
Awesome. And before we jump back, I think over to End, Cody Nutt, who I see we got you on stage here. Any?
I'm sorry, Wizard, just something to add. I know that there were no
Sure.
major volatile moves, but I would like to also shed some light into the current volatile deployments, because some people might not be aware of the current importance that they represent to some of the projects that are present on the Tokemak ecosystem. So, for example, for Frax, the largest source of liquidity that they have for FXS is the SushiSwap pool, and that's 100% owned by Tokemak. And this is also a very large source of revenue. So as it stands from the last week, if we take a monthly projection for it, it's around 40-something K. And sometimes people might think that the rewards that we are publishing on the dev feed are all of the revenue that we are intaking, but that's far from the case. And I would add that in the near future, all of that is going to be properly and also the community to also show the real revenue that the protocol is making. And that's a very important part of the system that really demonstrates our product market fit.
Was anyone? Did everyone hear Sharp okay, or was he cutting out for anyone?
Oh, it was fine for me. I think it might be
Okay.
connection.
Okay, perfect. Might be mine then, and that means just yell at me if when I'm talking at any point it cuts out. Maybe before we throw it back over to End, Cody, not any just quick updates, kind of on what the dev team is currently digging in on.
Yeah, we got a couple things. So we're still working through those new potential DEX integrations, Maverick, Balancer, Frax Swap. So still looking into those, and still the general kind of overall V2 of our manager, I guess you'd say, to efficiently push all these funds out every week. So that's still ongoing. On the audit front, we're finalizing one minor audit with a couple new contracts and some minor changes to other ones. Also finalizing a pen test on our front end. Everything looking good. Just kind of doing some final wrap up there. And then we're packaging up a couple more changes to send off for another audit, probably either today or Monday. So lots of stuff getting checked out there. On the rewards front, so no changes for our users, but for anyone that is possibly an integrator or who has maybe automated their reward claim process, you may see a minor change that we'll post in the dev feed here in the coming weeks, just around how you'll find your reward information. So again, no change to the end users, but if you've done any kind of automation, be on the lookout on the dev feed channel for some minor updates there. That's about it.
Thanks. We'll throw this back to End, I think, then.
Yeah, just a small update for everybody. We started 2 weeks ago to have our Capcom, which is our captain's call, and we know that's just exclusively with the captains right now. But I just wanted to let everybody know that we've been having some really insightful, thoughtful conversations about thinking about the governance structure for Tokemak. I know there's a Tokemak governance thread that has some really good information. A lot of that's what's being discussed as well underneath the Tokemak general channel. And then there's also the DAO governance channel, which everybody is welcome to speak their mind there. But just wanted to let everybody know that we've been having some great conversations, and we'll begin to disseminate some of that some of that chatter once it becomes a bit more organized. Yeah, just talking about governance,
and we should also just congratulate our captains, because it has been a pleasure to see meritocracy at work. And yesterday it was a really good call, not just touching on governance, but also to see the sustainable process that we have seen just unfold in the last couple of months. And right now, the metrics of revenue versus emissions are starting to really show that Tokemak has a product market fit. So it was really exciting to also update everyone on that.
Yeah, I agree. Yesterday's conversation was really, really nice. Yeah, so anyways, that's a little update about the Capcoms that we said we were going to do, just to let you guys know that those are happening. I think now we're going to go to some of those questions, Carson, if you're ready for that.
Yep. Yeah,
Crocodile.
fire away if you want to read them off.
Yeah, Crocodile is the first question. He said, Carson mentioned on Index Coop that there are some things that make Tokemak impossible to fork. Do these things mechanics also apply to decentralized reactors?
Yeah, I can jump in on this. So at a high level, and I should maybe say impossible to fork is, of course, probably always an overstatement, but the things that make Tokemak very difficult to fork effectively is the logic, some of which is off-chain, at least for now, until we strategically want to put it on, for how we manage the two different pools of capital. So basically the PCA or POA, the protocol-owned assets, and then the LP assets, which we always protect. So most of that does sort of apply equally on the decentralized or permission. I think decentralized reactors is our latest term for it. So on the decentralized reactor front, much of that follows kind of that same logic on making it a challenging thing to fork, where you can't just copy paste sort of the code that is deployed on chain for now in order to fork.
Cool. Yeah, great. Sorry, I was just getting Paul back up here. The next question from Reggie was, any updates on current or additional sex listings?
I love that acronym.
Yep, I
by the
can.
way.
I know the sex listings. I'll also let Bruno and Sharp chime in here. But on the moment, it probably hasn't been the thing that's like highest on our mind, because we do have some listings on some good ones. Now we have actually been back and forth with a couple. I probably should ask legal whether we're able to share or not on in terms of like what they need in order to get listed. So I think that there will be more, but nothing sort of immediate to share. Other than that, we're continuing to drive the ball forward with like the couple remaining really big name ones that we're currently not on.
Yeah,
Bruno, man. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that something that has also surprised me. It's the volume on some of those centralized exchanges, which has been just interesting to see when in comparison to the DEX volume. And in some days, I've seen very, very large volume in comparison. So interesting to see that the common retail that doesn't access DeFi directly is interacting with Toke.
yeah, and I just wanted to add like a kind of a little bit of a different perspective also to like the centralized listings. Is that we've just been, me and Sharp have been talking the last few days also about like kind of generally speaking about like liquidity directors, and like kind of the more kind of knowledgeable and like sophisticated they are, like, the better for the system as well. And there's like kind of a balance to be struck between, kind of, reaching just, just kind of more speculative like retail traders on like that are probably more like on centralized exchanges. Yeah, there's like kind of a balance to be struck there, but yeah, as Carson said, there's things in the works.
Yep, and I'll just layer on what Bruno was just saying, where I think the thing that gives convexity to the project sort of going forward, at least from as measured by sort of traditional market means of measuring success of a project, will likely be introduced from a lot of the V2 tokenomics for Tokemak that introduce just native demand for it, as opposed to just sort of retail demand on sexes. So it's definitely something we're going to continue to, like, we're not going to cast a blind eye to it. We do think it's important, but the new tokenomics and ACC token stuff that's coming will really be, I think, the thing that gives some nice tailwinds to us.
Okay, cool. The next question from Reggie again, the man. When will Sushi LP end, and how will the transition work? I think this is a popular question, so I think Sharp and Bruno, you have some thoughts on that, right?
Yeah, I can touch on this. So the short answer is that it's not going to end anytime soon. And the migration of liquidity will be a function of the demand that we see on Curve V2. So we have started the partnership with StakeDAO, and we're starting to also use their liquid lockers. I think that I've previously mentioned this, but we have a 30% increase on a weekly basis in terms of the governance power that we are acquiring over Curve V2. And ultimately, this will allow us to just completely eliminate a very large portion of our current emissions. And when that happens, our revenue will far outpace our emissions. And that's very exciting to the protocol. But as it stands, the sushi pool will still be ongoing, and the migration will happen in a very slow and steady manner.
Okay, cool. The next question was from Reggie again. He said, "There's an industry trend that I'm seeing, and is protocol rewards converted to WETH at protocol level and distributed to the community in WETH. I know we have new tokenomics coming, but wondering if this is a possibility in the future if this becomes more common." Carson or somebody maybe want to touch on that.
Sure, I can start, and then we can see if Sharp or anyone else wants to chime in too. But so the general approach I think here is a lot of sort of the sea change we're seeing across DeFi, where we go against sort of high emissions, especially in one's own token. And if you saw, we've obviously dialed things back sort of to be able to not only survive but also thrive in the new market regime we're going into. So the biggest thing that we're sort of transitioning over to is getting to sustainable emissions, which would be basically a subset of the revenue generated by the protocol. In those models, if it comes out of actually revenue, it generally makes the most sense if you think about what assigns value back to the tokens for the protocol itself to buy up the native token. Emit that, because even if you had 100% sell pressure, which of course you never do, meaning all of them that you hand out are sold, you still are better off, or well, up to 100%, you still end up with price discovery for the token because you bought 100%. So even if 95% sold off, to say extremely pessimistically, you still had a plus 5% sort of pressure. So the wee thing I think is a lot of groups trying to quickly move away from the emissions. We feel like we've dialed it back and have a plan in place now across the roadmap with the new tokenomics and emissions and sort of revenue tracking mechanics, where we can do this still in Toka. Now, having said all of that, we're definitely open to exploring this. So even though that's sort of not the way we're thinking about it right now, it's not something that like we are just like completely opposed to if that's sort of where things go in the industry and if there were to be demand for it.
Yeah, and it's also a matter of optics as it stands right now. There's also some legal questions associated with it, but it's definitely a possibility later on to denominate part of that revenue directly into ETH itself.
Yep. So short answer is it's not exactly the way we're thinking about it right now, but we're not opposed to it, and we'll definitely continue to explore it going into the future.
And I would also add just a quick thought on revenue. And it's very important to, as it stands, internalize a lot of that revenue, and sharing revenue with a positive impact on the token market itself is something that should be timed with this transition to a new phase, right? And sometimes I like to use the analogy fighting an avalanche with a shovel. So while we were on the steep downtrend, it made no sense whatsoever to fight that trend with immediate revenue share, but we're getting close to that stage. And as it stands, the statistics of our current revenue are very attractive, and it will be in our future plans.
Okay, great. That's actually all the questions that we had from the Notion board over the course of the past 2 weeks. So if you guys have more questions that you want us to discuss in these state of the reactors, please feel free to use that Notion board for the next one. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about? I know Paul and I were going to touch on a small update on Exaverse, but just want to
just something quick. And I'm not sure if Tokemak wants to come on stage, but the hand is raised, right? Am I a boomer?
I invited both Bruno and I invited her. So I don't know. She.
Okay.
There we go.
Hey guys.
Hello,
I was
hey there.
doing this. Nice to see you all.
Yes, good to have you on stage.
Nice to see you.
Cool. Yeah. Anything across the pretty big stage now that we should cover? Otherwise, I think we can probably we'll give just a second to see if anyone had any other updates or items we should hit on, and then I think we can switch over to the pollen end update if there isn't any.
Yeah, personally, I'll just emphasize again, really, really excited with our current metrics of emissions versus revenue. I'm always talking about this lately, but everyone is going to realize how this is going to be reflected in the near future into Tokemak, but something to keep an eye out for. And you can
Yep.
see the self pressure decreasing too.
Yeah, totally agree with Sharp there. It's the whole sort of V2, really Tokemak V2, not just the tokenomics, but all the stuff that we're building out are really exciting. And given a bear market, we're building some great stuff. And maybe one final teaser, which I won't go into a lot of detail now, but we'll go into probably 2 calls from now, something like that, in more detail, is some interesting expansion potential for Tokemak as well, along the lines of the pricers that we talked about very early on. We're doing some kind of very solid whiteboarding within the team that could have some really interesting potential to expand on another sort of dimension as well within the protocol. So more to discuss on that in the future as well.
Carson, I can say this here on a call. We had a very interesting call regarding that earlier that I'll have to update you on.
Excellent. Sounds good.
Oh, and
yeah,
I just wanted to hop in because I just saw a question in the State of the Reactor chat that I think was not on our list. There was Reginald that asked about Core 3 updates. Unfortunately, like Craig, who's like fully in the picture, is like not on the call today. He's out. But I can give a little bit of the things that I've like kind of seen peripherally in my vision. Is that we've worked some more with like some of the DAOs that we're talking to. Currently looking, we've created like some models for them to like model revenue and these kind of things. So like we're fully on kind of engaged with them, and I think we'll have like more updates to share soon.
Yeah, and something to also emphasize is that it's not just something from our side. There are also some constraints with some DAOs, and it's just a process and it will take some time. But technically speaking, this is something that can be done quickly. So it's just this negotiation phase that takes a while longer.
And I just thought of one final thing, Bruno, that probably connects to you. I think we had mentioned before, sort of I think on the last call, sort of the state of the DAO, and that not only are we building great stuff looking forward, but we're also in a healthy state where we don't have to worry about downsizing. We can continue to build, expand as needed, etc. There's about 31 million in non-Toka assets in the treasury. I believe that Bruno is going to be pulling. I don't think we've tweeted this out or shared it yet in Discord, but we're pulling together sort of a more holistic view of kind of how the breakdown of those things works, as well as the market value of the Toka that the DAO owns free and clear, and those things together, I think, at least double that number. So I think this is a range, and we'll get you the final. I think it's 60, 70 million, something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, but it's mostly a question of me getting artsy with the with the graphic card. But like,
yes,
the numbers line up. Yeah, it's like between
right around there.
I'd have to like the last time. By now it should be between, like you said, between 60 and 70 million. But I'd have to like check like the latest. I'm careful with numbers without like actually doing the math on all the assets that we have. But like, yeah, between 60 and 70 million.
Yep. So that would include the Toka that's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sharp.
I was just going to say that it's also interesting, this approach of having a revenue buffer that essentially allows you to recycle emissions by pulling them out from the market, so supporting price, and being able to use them as emissions to incentivize liquidity once again.
Yep, exactly. And so yeah, not only from a revenue perspective should it be positive, but the starting point's really positive. And as Bruno was just saying, we'll get it out as usual. We have to make it sort of look appealing as well. We won't just put a simple pie chart out there, but we're pulling together that, and we'll get that out on. We saw that some other protocols were starting to sort of share what's in their treasury, which I think is very important and very healthy right now for DeFi, for those to start seeing which protocols are here for the long run, and have a real, not only war chest, but also have a value prop going forward, where they can generate revenue and provide real provide real value across the ecosystem, which we can in spades. But also helpful when I was seeing those things that sort of refreshed my mind that, hey, we've been sharing this without the token that the DAO itself owns. So with that, it looks really attractive, and compared to a lot of groups that I've seen put out their treasuries, we're in a extremely solid place, like by a factor of 2 or 3, probably on some very solid projects that show that we can we can build far into the future and be set to be the liquidity bandwidth layer of the internet. So okay, I think with that, can throw it over to End or Internet Paul. However, they want to kind of jump in on the quick update from there on the extrovert side of things.
Yeah. So as many of you know, Paul and I have been working on kind of a side project in an attempt to breathe life into the Tokemak universe, which we conceived of so long ago now. And it's a NFT based project where people in the Tokemak ecosystem will be able to mint pilot NFTs. But as we dug further into this world, we kind of came up with an interesting universe that we think is compelling, and we have a small squad of a team working on making this world a reality with some gamified elements that tie back to Tokemak. And the Genesis pilot collection is coming along really well. Obviously, it took us a little bit longer than we thought, but we're getting to a good place now. Probably aiming to launch the mint sometime after the summer. We'll keep people updated on that. But I think the main goal was to not just launch a stupid NFT project, but to have some fun things to do right after they launch. So to have kind of a pipeline prepared with some content that can come out right as people mint their NFTs. So Paul, do you want to chime in on any of that?
Yeah, so I think as everybody knows probably on this call, like the competition within the landscape of GameFi or NFT projects is it's fierce. So when we decided that we needed to have a presence within this market to buttress Tokemak's onboarding of new users and new ways for people to be able to plug into the smart contracts of Tokemak, we didn't, we knew that we had to come up with something truly valuable. And so it was months of exploration, and through that process, we did uncover what we think is a genuinely original product, which will come out this year, starting with the mint. But the byproduct of the user experience of Exaverse will both be the utilization of the Tokemak contracts, as well as the production of, let's just say, other assets that we believe will have value. So you're seeing things like, Bored Apes really reaching into Hollywood and content production. And it's easy to do if you're Bored Apes, but as a team of DeFi builders with no track record in this industry, it's not so easy. That being said, we've made some extremely interesting inroads. Still not going to give it away, but I promise you what we're working on it's new and interesting, and I do think it will be successful.
Is Genesis Pilot Mint open to all current pilots? Right now, the loose plan is still what we've kind of articulated in the past, which is there'll be a mint for people that participated in the Genesis, and then a mint for a broader Tokemak ecosystem. And then, if it gets to a public mint, we would do a public mint. But we're trying to make sure that it's something for our community first. So it's going to be kind of a small collection. So we think that probably, I don't know. I mean, I think it would probably be minted out for this Genesis pilot collection within the Tokemak community. So
it'll be a reasonable mint fee too for anyone who, for whatever reason, isn't eligible for that. I'm not going to say whether or not everyone who is a current pilot or not, is going to get a free mint. But the mint is not really where we're going with this thing. The mint is there just to have invested people as a base layer of usership. And we've spoken about this lore crafting process in the past, but really what you can think of Exoverse is some level of a sort of co-authored world building exercise, akin to like a tokenized fan fiction community. So I really don't want to give it all away until we have a chance to present it to you guys in a polished way so that you can get excited about it. But this is from what I know, a unique and new approach to what I think might be one of the more core use cases of something like an NFT-based community. And that the community that we look to build will be productive in terms of just by playing this game, the net result of it will be, a unique IP catalog upon which things can be built. Content can then be built on top of this base layer universe that we co-author.
Yeah, and I think in the coming weeks we'll probably have a separate discussion about it that's focused on it, that sort of reveals more of what's going on behind the scenes. But there's some cool stuff coming. So.
And one sort of final thing that links this back to sort of core Tokemak is, in addition to Internet, Paul, and a bunch of other hard workers that have been working alongside them on this, not only did this take some time to make sure they're doing something truly unique and different, much like Tokemak was a unique and different thing and sorely needed within DeFi, but the same thing over here with Exoverse, that's sort of a wrapper of sorts into this project. But also this supports that we needed to also wait until we had enough of the Tokemak V2 sort of ready to go, in particular the ACC Toka. And this is going to directly support and reinforce that. So more to share in the future on that, but these things all sort of come together, and you don't have to use Exoverse to participate with other inroads into sort of liquidity and liquidity bandwidth within Tokemak. So.
And I think that I can say without spoiling anything that I've seen contracts on testnet, so I'm not directly involved with Exoverse, but this is a safe leak to put out there, I think.
Yeah, material progress is being made every month, including on the dev side. So rest assured, this is real, this is coming, and I really do think that everyone will like it. So it's laced with a lot of Tokemak references, but it is still built to stand on its own.
Yeah, we got to get those mechs going. Cool. That is kind of all I have in terms of questions and updates. Does anybody else want to add anything before we I know it's kind of only 30 minutes today, but I think we accomplished quite a lot, covered quite a bit. I mean,
good on my end. Thanks for joining, everyone. Appreciate it.
Okay, until next time.
See you guys.
sweet.
Talk soon. Thanks everyone.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thanks.
Hey guys.